Welcome, everyone. We will get started with our webinar in just a moment as we have people starting to trickle in. Great, let's go ahead and get started with some housekeeping items. Welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Sarita Rangpradab, and I'm the Director of Microbiology Research and Development for Mérieux NutriSciences. I'm very excited to be the moderator for today's digital event, put together by a company whose purpose is to provide better solutions for better food, better health, and better world. Yesterday was World Food Day, and in honor of that, we have an exciting program highlighting sustainability and agricultural practices. Before we start, a few housekeeping items that may enhance your digital experience. Just give me a moment to share my screen. Okay. A very cool feature with this Zoom event, we have AI-powered translations for the captions, so you have access to the information in nearly any language. At the bottom of the Zoom screen, you will see a CC box. You can switch subtitles on and off, and there's an arrow next to it so that you will be able to activate translations and select your caption language. If you're having technical difficulties at any time during this event, please use the Q&A function. There is a virtual backstage team ready to assist you. If you have questions for our presenters today, please also put them into the Q&A. We will try to get to them. However, if we do not, they will be answered after the event and shared with you. A brief overview of today's program. We will start with a presentation by a very special guest speaker, Frank Vogel. Frank is a photographer and a speaker and a member of the French Explorer Society. Then we will have a panel discussion with global experts from Mérieux NutriSciences and Genesis. They will discuss key topics related to food sustainability and regenerative agriculture. Our experts will touch on data and technology, soil health, and environmental footprinting. To briefly introduce our panelists, we have Roland Defoe, CEO of Genesis, Jan Joris van Diepen, Environmental Footprinting Director, North America for Mérieux NutriSciences Blanc. Also joining us today is André Lambrechts, Managing Director, South Africa for Mérieux NutriSciences Hortec. We also have Anne-Elodie Genetier, Global Sustainability and Agribusiness Director for Mérieux NutriSciences. And rounding out our panel, Davide Lucerini, Consultant with Mérieux NutriSciences Blanc in the Netherlands. Let me stop sharing my screen. We will see our panelists in a little bit. First, we will begin with Frank. Thank you, Frank, for joining us today and to be willing to share insights from your travels. You will be talking about the Bishnois. They are the heroes of the conservation world and have made wildlife conservation and environmental protection their life's work. The Bishnois consider animals and trees like members of their family, in particular, the black buck antelope, which they consider like their children. The Bishnoi community of Rajasthan and India have made a life of protecting trees and wildlife for more than 500 years. In a world where environmental issues are ever more pressing, the age-old Bishnoi traditions certainly can teach us something. Frank, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Do you hear me? Yeah. So thank you very much for inviting me today for this special day. And I will share with you my experience with the Bishnoi and how they live in harmony with wildlife. So let's share the screen. Okay. Okay. Great. So I will talk about the Bishnoi, as Sarita told you. So wait, just starting. Yeah. So to start, I want to bring you back 500 years ago in the Thar Desert in Rajasthan, India. Imagine the war, like it didn't rain for 10 years in this area. So people went crazy, killed animals, cut the last trees, and it was just awful. It was a local climate change. And at this time, a man had a vision, seeing human beings destroying everything and dying afterwards. And he started to talk to them. So at this time, you had many castes living there in the Thar Desert. You had Jat, Brahmin, Muslims, untouchables, many castes living there. And he started to talk. And he told them, actually, if you continue living like this, killing animals, cutting the last trees, you will die in a matter of months, even weeks. Or I can suggest you to migrate to another place. That's another option. Or third option, I provide you with 29 rules based on harmony between humans, wildlife, and nature. And I promise, if you follow them, that you'll be able to survive in this desert on your land. So he started to edict. So that's a prophet. His name Jambeshwar. And he started to talk with people around. He got his first disciples, and who were teaching also around him. And they founded the first village called Jamba in 1485. So those 29 rules, actually Bishnoi means 29. And so they have to remember those 29 rules. Bish means 20, Noi 9. So Bishnoi, the 29. The first rule actually is to live in harmony with wildlife and protect animals and to stop eating meat. So it's just a matter of respect. He told them human beings are not higher or more important than the rest. You need all of them. You need the trees, you need the animals, and trees need you, animals need you, and it's just a matter of harmony, connection between each other. So you cannot kill them. You need them. So actually, he also told them it's not only a matter of taking care of them, you have also to share your food with them. So he created an eco-tax. 10% of the income or the grains have to be given to wild animals, which is also amazing when you think about it. We are in 1485. In France, they started to launch an eco-tax and it was aborted. So, and they managed to do it in the 15th century. And even when wild animals are coming, eating in ripe fields, they won't chase them right away. They will let them eat their share. And since 500 years, they are living with the Bishnoi surrounding them. And those wild animals are coming and sometimes even eating in the hand of the Bishnoi, here with the Bishnoi priest. But the first time I've seen that was just marvelous. I was completely amazed and touched by that. And they also have to provide shelters for old and abandoned animals, cows mainly, but not only. And it's also part of this eco-tax to finance these shelters for animals ill or old or abandoned. The second rule actually is to stop cutting trees, but they have to plant trees, at least one tree per year per Bishnoi. Here we are with Ranaram Bishnoi and his grandson. Ranaram actually planted over 30,000 trees in his lifetime. He's now over 80 years old. And he's teaching here his grandson how to take care of the tree shrubs. And he doesn't know how to read or how to write, but he knows that it's important to plant trees to stop the desert to grow. And he was going to schools and teaching, also giving the example, even gifting smaller trees to schools and explaining the kids to how to plant them. And the most important thing is, when you plant a tree, it's not only to plant a tree in the desert. You have to take care of the tree and to share your own water with it, at least during 2 years, which is very important, because those trees, it's a type of acacia, they're very deep roots. And those roots, actually, they get access to some kind of water after 2 years, because the roots are deep enough, and so they manage to survive alone. But during those 2 years, you have to share the water with them. And in the 18th century, in 1730, 363 Bishnoi have been killed to save trees, to save their forests, their holy trees. And I won't give the details now, but it's just unique in human history that 363 human beings have been killed trying to save trees. Another rule, as I told you in the beginning, everything is based on harmony, on respect. And it's also for humans, respect between men and women. Here, the first rule the first rule dedicated to women is, he actually in the 15th century, he created maternity leave. So 30 days after giving birth, the ladies are just taking care of the baby, no work in the field, no cooking, nothing like this. So that's the first rule for women. And the second one, which is also quite visionary for the time, so during 4 to 5 days a month, they rest during their periods, which is also very amazing, thinking this like 500 years ago. They also have to filter the water because they don't want to drink insects or even bacteria but it's just something to have a healthy and clean life. So it's filtering the water. They have to filter the speech as well, so to think twice before talking. And they have many other rules based on actually not to disturb your brain. That means no consumption of alcohol, no tobacco, no opium, no marijuana, nothing like that. That could disturb you to have a safe, a clean brain. He also gave them many advices, especially for agriculture, how to grow crops. He told them to actually build small dunes, sand dunes, around their fields to protect the field from the wind. And it was working so well, they really had very good yields. So you see, we are in a barley field here, and the yields are very good using this. And what they also do is, in the fields, they plant, so here you have a millet field, they also plant melons, onions in the same field. So we call it permaculture in a way, but they call it harmony. So everything is based on that. And as I told you, they have pretty good yields, and they are not suffering, like there is no famine there. They have enough to eat, and their life is pretty good for them. They just adapted. One more thing, twice a year, they come to the place where the prophet edicted the 29 rules, here in Mukam. He's buried in the back in this mausoleum, in the white mausoleum. And actually the prophet edicted the rules here on this place in Mukam. And they come 400,000 Bishnoi twice a year to pray and pray around the fires, the holy fires, and talk with their prophet. And as I told you before, he told them to create dunes, and to give him respect, they created other dunes near the holy place. So at the beginning, they were using the scarf to take the sand from the bottom and take it up and then throw the sand. And that's it. But 35 years ago, what happened? Every Bishnoi, because they are not living completely in the desert, all of them. Some are going to the cities or other villages. And in whatever shop they were buying a banana or a coconut, they got it in a plastic bag. And so they had plastic bags in their pocket. And what happened? During these big festivals, they took the sand with their plastic bag, went up to the dune, they throw the sand, and then throw the plastic bag. So imagine 400,000 people twice a year during 30 years throwing plastic bags. It was awful. A lot of plastic everywhere, and at the place of the first ecologists, at the most holy place for them. Nobody realized it was a problem. Just one man, Kamran Bishnoi. And he was fighting. He started to fight. I met him in 2007 when I was talking to other Bishnoi. Everybody told me he's crazy, he's stupid. And I decided to go and meet him. And I was lucky he was speaking a bit of English. And he told me that he was fighting against plastic. And I told him, wow, that's amazing. I was also shocked by all those plastic everywhere. And so I tried to help him. But it was not easy because I was talking to leaders. They didn't listen to me, didn't listen to him. But I had an opportunity actually. After my story on the Bishnoi was published, like exclusivity by Geo magazine, it was published for the first time in France in March 2009. Before that, I was invited to give a talk and to have an exhibition at an environmental forum in Courchevel in the French Alps. And I told the organizer it would be nice to invite my friend Kamran to talk about his fight against plastic, a problem that came from us, from Western countries. And they accepted. And so he discovered the snow in Courchevel in the French Alps in the winter. It was in December 2008. And it was just amazing for him. He told me, it's Taj Mahal everywhere. It's just amazing. And but the most interesting part was not there. It was in Paris when I came back with him. He discovered the public trash can in Paris. And he told me he stopped, starting to take some sketches, some photos of these trash cans. And he told me, you have to help me. We don't have that in India. I need to create those in India. I didn't have any connection with companies doing trash cans, but after several months after the story was published, TV channels contacted me, several, and they asked me to do a documentary film. And I accepted, so I did this documentary film on the Bishnoi, but I told them, I want to follow several characters, including Kamran. And they accepted, they agreed. And we managed to create the first Bishnoi trash cans. We created them in the Jodhpur market. And we installed them at the most holy place in Mukam and explaining what it was for the plastic actually, to avoid the plastic. And what I really realized during my trip with, like during this reportage, and I spent a lot of time, I spent 6 months with the Bishnoi in total. And then again for the movie, I realized that you can adapt. And Kamran Bishnoi is the best example of a man fighting alone against a problem nobody had seen before. And he managed to change things. It took some time, but after 2 years, after he installed the first trash cans, the place, the most holy place for the Bishnoi in Mukam is now clean. It took only 2 years because he managed to change the idea of ecology and just adding another rule in a way, the 30th rule to avoid plastic. And I believe that we all have a Bishnoi inside of us. And today I want to plant a seed into your brain that you know that it's possible to change, that we can change as humans, and we are able to adapt. And the Bishnoi are the best example. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you so much for sharing those stories and the rules about the Bishnoi and their way of life. Your experiences and those photos are really tell a story and shows us that we can find inspiration anywhere, even in a trash can. So, yeah.
Exactly.
So I don't think I can see if we have any questions. What I'd like to ask you to do, if you don't mind joining us back at the end of the hour, keeping an eye on the clock, I want to make sure we have enough time for our panelists. So maybe at the end, we'll see if there are any questions for you and you can answer them then.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So moving on to our panel discussion, it looks like we have all our panelists joining us. Again, I won't go through the introductions, but we have Roland, Andre, Anna Lodi, David, and Jan Joris. And Jan Joris, you get our first question. So Jan Joris, sustainability and data are hot topics in the food and agri industry today. With this in mind, what role do you believe data can or should play in driving a more sustainable agricultural practices?
Yes, thank you, Sarita. And good morning, everybody. Within Blanc, we are experts on environmental footprinting in the food and agri industry. So we quantify environmental performance of food production systems based on science-based methodology and metrics. And for this, data is really key. And it's not just about having an emission factor, one final footprint number of a food product. To drive more sustainable agri practices, a deep understanding of the supply chain and all the activities and related emissions is necessary. And this means a lot of data from the supply chain is needed to really understand the hotspots in your total product footprint and the most important variables that affect those hotspots. And typically in food production, farm activities are one of those hotspots. So it's really important to get relevant data from the farm. And only then we can think of most effective reduction strategy and propose impactful sustainable agri practices in collaboration with farmers. To illustrate this, I can give you an example of a project that we did for the state of Nebraska here in the US. They asked us to make an inventory of the climate change impact of agriculture production in the state of Nebraska and what measures they could take to reduce the carbon emissions in line with the goals from the Paris Agreement. So we analyzed the supply chain of their major commodities like beef, soybean, corn, dairy, and pig production. We collected all the necessary data for this, like yields, fertilizer use, diesel use in machinery, and data from different beef systems like grazing and feedlots. And then we identified the hotspots, mainly enteric fermentation in beef production, N2O emissions from corn and soy cultivation, energy use in machinery, and fertilizer production emissions. And next, we quantified reduction potential of different practices, like nitrification inhibitors, regenerative agriculture practices like no tillage, but also specific feed additives in the ration of cattle in feedlots. This study was performed 2 years ago, and we actually heard this summer that the state of Nebraska now has been rewarded the fund to implement a lot of the sustainable agri practices that we recommended. And these kind of assessments are only possible with good quality data from agri production supply chains, including the farm. Of course, as supply chains for food production are complex and not always transparent, this can be an issue. Fortunately, traceability is becoming more urgent, both from a quality perspective as from a sustainability perspective. And as more supply chain data becomes available and supply chain partners work together, most impactful sustainability agri practices can be applied and valorized.
Thank you for that. The Nebraska project was really telling, it seems like. To build on that topic of data, maybe we go to Andre next. So Andre, Mérieux NutriSciences Hortec is highly reputed in South Africa for its proprietary hardware and software solutions to aid the agri-industry in their farming practices. Could you give us some more insight into this and how farmers can effectively integrate technology like this to boost sustainability?
Thank you, Sarita. If you don't mind me sharing my screen quickly.
Please.
Can you see the screen?
No, not yet.
Okay,
While Andre is pulling up his screen, to the audience, if you have any questions, please go ahead and put them in the Q&A. We can answer them if we have time at the end or after the event. Okay, now we see your screen, Andre.
Right, thank you, Sarita. Just to add on to what Jan Joris and Frank has to say is about data. And Frank made a comment that the Bourgeois actually used sand dunes to protect their crops. And now I want to elaborate on that a little further. In the image, you'll see that this is a map of South Africa of all our weather stations, and we have quite a big network. And the other comment that was made is data. How important is data in the agricultural industry? Now, looking at all the data points we have in South Africa, you can see that we have quite a few data points in South Africa. And then if I look at that and I say, what does a weather station's data mean to us? And I'm going to move to the next slide. This data is just data. It gives you temperature. This is for Cape Town from 2 days ago. Gives me a prediction for the rest of the week. It gives me dew points. It gives me humidity. But what does it mean to us? What does the real data mean? And this is where it gets to where we actually take the data and we apply prediction models and a little bit of artificial intelligence. And I can take that for a specific point and I can look at this and say, this is what we can, the days of the week and the hours of the day that we can actually apply pesticides that will be effective. If you look at the index at the bottom, obviously the darker the colors, it's a no-go. And the greener, it's good times for us to apply pesticides. Now getting back to sustainability, farmers, if they apply the pesticides at the wrong time of the day, what happens? You lose efficacy, you get crop contamination. If you farm with various crops, your pesticides can end up in your water resources, killing your natural flora and animals in your water sources. And if you just use the data that's available, you can make such a big difference just on your sustainability alone on the farm and being more effective and efficient, using less pesticides, less diesel from your tractors. That's part of the pesticide spraying program. And I'm going to continue to the next slide. And this is all just using weather data from a single weather station that we can apply all these models. Frost forecasting, now that's another item that I want to discuss is food security. We all know that the food security is a key item, and around 2050 could potentially not have enough food for the world population. This is a frost forecast model we get from our data from a weather station. Now, obviously, frost can damage crops, specifically more sensitive crops like berries. In this case, you'll see in the top left corner, the weather station is called Alice berries. And if you look at this, again, the darker the color, the higher the risk of frost or black frost that could be damage crops severely. And if we have these parameters in a forecast, you can actually act on these and know what to do. In a case with frost, either apply irrigation or frost fans, or even in cases you apply helicopters to push down the immersion layer. But again, just using data effectively in a forecast process, and we can protect your crops. Then diseases, or in this case, codling moth, more insect or pests. This is a common insect problem around the world in your pome and stone fruits. What this graph shows you is actually very simple. Once you catch the first 2 adult moths in a trap in your orchards, you put that date into the model. And the model then will take the date in the weather data, and it will give you the indication when you will have your next full cycle of adults. And it will give you a clear indication of when you should spray your pesticides for those specific pests. In the graph, if you look at it, the little yellow lines, the horizontal lines, that show you the next adult phase, and then the green, not the green, I must apologize, the brown line is the next spraying date. And that actually gives you a very good indication of when to apply pesticides, not just when you find the first insects in the orchards, start spraying 7 days a week. It's not necessary. There's artificial models that actually can give you a much better treatment period for the specific problems that you might have with insects. And this is just one example. And then my last one is more, I would say, diseases that plants get. In this case, it's blueberries. Again, we take the weather station data, and if you look at the index at the bottom, it will show the infection risk. At around 250, you start getting problems, and we'll go into that yellow area, calling it the caution area. And then you must know you must apply the necessary pesticides for the specific disease. And again, if you have the data, you can save so much on time and cost, and also protect the environment. And this is, I think, the important part for us is the sustainability that comes with using data in the agricultural industry, and then securing our food for the future. Thank you, Sarita.
Thank you, Andre. So based on the map you shared, it seems like those stations have quite a footprint across the country.
Yes.
And that's great. I'm going to move next to Roland. Roland, your company has a platform for soil health. So this next question is probably best suited for you. So it's clear that better agricultural practices are essential to sustainable food systems and should be assessed for their benefits. Over and beyond this, how should the industry scale farm-level impact measurements, particularly around soil health, to drive global transition?
Thank you, Sarita. So hi, everyone. My name is Roland. I'm the CEO of Genesis. Genesis is the world's first soil rating agency. And I'm going to show you very quickly how we collaborate with Mérieux to regenerate and preserve soils based on soil health measurements. As you said and introduced it, Sarita, it's now fairly known and recognized that better practices are key to preserve soils and to ensure food production, as was previously mentioned as well. However, the industry needs quantification of the impact as well. To drive the transition, they need to understand how much carbon is stored, depending on the practices ongoing. They need to understand how to assess soil resilience, and globally to position themselves compared to the potential of the soil they are leveraging. So beyond means, the industry needs results, and these results, these metrics, this quantification need to be available at scale. All the group produce goods from soils across the world, and the data needs to be available everywhere. So how can we combine accuracy of the data, quantification, and scale? That's the challenge that we addressed at Genesis, and we truly believe that you can't improve what you can't measure. And so the outcome of what we deliver, working with Mérieux, is to produce farm-level impact measurement at scale. So coming back to my first 2 examples of an organic soil on the left and a conventional one on the right, which obviously have different state level, we managed to produce concrete and quantified outcomes for each of them based on soil sampling and transformation of this sample into quantified data about water stocks, carbon stocks, and soil health more globally. So how do we do this at scale? First, we work on statistical sampling. So we sample soils that are representative of specific production clusters and so on. Then we work with Mérieux to analyze the soils and get a lot of information about the carbon dynamics in the soil, physicochemical parameters, and so on. Then we transform this very technical data into their position compared to their potential of the soil. This is based on the referential we have built. For every pedoclimatic cluster, we know what's the minimum carbon stock you can get and the maximum. So we can easily compare and transform the measured value into a rating, which says, are you at a good level, bad, or average level? Then what we also do is that we aggregate all the contextual information we can get on the farming practices to explain, by correlating it with the impact, why you have this good impact on this specific soil and why you don't have it on another one. So what practices have changed? And this is what we deliver to our clients through a web platform indeed, to enable them three things. Locally, they can regenerate soils. They can understand which practices they need to change in order to improve specific metrics or the globality of the soil health. Second, at a more aggregated level on their whole sourcing worldwide, they get comparable metrics on soil health, carbon, water, or any of these metrics based on all their supplies, and they can benchmark suppliers, they can mitigate the risks of productions of specific areas, and so on. And last, all this same data can feed all the reporting required today with CSRD, SBT reporting, Sustainable Agriculture Initiative platform as well, whatever standard they need to comply with. So in a nutshell, that's what we built with Mérieux, enabling large group like this is a large multinational wine and beverage company. They can compare their various productions throughout the world with comparable data on the various metrics and quantification they need to drive their impact toward the best result possible. I think time is up, so I will stop there, but happy to answer any question afterwards if needed.
Thank you, Roland. So I think we see that data is important. So from the Nebraska project to the data used and collected by Hortec and with the Genesis platform. So David, Mérieux NutriSciences Blanc are market leaders in environmental footprinting. Based on your experience, what do you believe companies within the agri-food supply chain should be doing to enhance the accuracy of their footprinting methods, and why is this important?
Hi, thanks, Rita. Thanks for the question, and thanks for the invitation. To answer this question, I thought of briefly presenting the work that we're doing with footprinting and data management for regenerative agriculture, because I think that this work can really show how agri-food companies can take advantage of better methodological and data accuracy. So our work comes from the need to valorize the efforts in regenerative agriculture and farm-level measurements, thanks to environmental footprinting methodologies. So that's where we make the match in a way. We know that regenerative agriculture is a powerful tool for restoring soil health, for enhancing biodiversity, and for improving the overall resilience of our food system. And many actors in the food sector are already taking significant steps to support these practices at the farm level and on a larger scale even. But also farmers are already adopting many of these sustainable techniques. Talk about crop rotations, reduced tillage, cover crops, agroforestry, rotational grazing as well. And they all aim at regenerating land and ecosystems. However, for us, the question remains, that is, how can we ensure that these valuable contributions are accurately, hence the accuracy topic, measured and recognized within the environmental footprinting methods? And here is a context where also frameworks like LANCA, which is a land use type of footprinting indicator, come into play. LANCA is one example of a tool that can quantify the environmental impacts of land use in terms of soil quality, based on calculating 5 different sub-indicators. Provides insightful views on the positive contribution that also regenerative practices can do. It's also supported by the European Commission, and it's in constant development. That's why also we like it. So we can analyze primary data at the farm, capture the benefits of some of these practices, but also generate meaningful insights for the farmers and then can hopefully use to transition towards more sustainable systems. And briefly also wanted to mention that our investigation is also including other aspects of environmental footprinting and data management, linked, for instance, to carbon accounting in soil and biomass, to bottom-up biodiversity assessments, but also impact allocation in highly diverse farms. We're targeting small as well as large-scale farms, and we try to compare different regions and different crops. So, to conclude, we believe that if we want to unlock the full potential of regenerative agriculture, we need to bridge the gap between the farm and the footprinting methods. So we need to be more accurate in our assessments and more oriented and supportive towards farmers. So I hope that our efforts can really contribute to more transparent, more data-driven approach that encourages innovation and investment in regenerative agriculture. Thanks.
Thank you, David. As a scientist, I love data. And so I think the better methods we have so that we can make better predictions are certainly important. So thank you.
Indeed.
And Elodie, on this panel, we have our partner in Genesis, as well as Blanc and Hortec, which are recent additions to the Mérieux NutriSciences family. Why is collaboration across stakeholders in the food chain vital for driving the agri-food transition? And what are some successful examples of such partnerships?
Thanks, Sarita, for your question. So to answer it, I would like to come back first to the story of the Bishnoi story told by Frank at the beginning. We are reminded how vital collaboration and collective action are to face environmental challenges. So the Bishnoi, they adapted their way of life, protecting natural resources, developing a deep respect for biodiversity. They not only managed to survive, but to thrive for generations as they grew, and now they represent a large population. So their legacy, I think, should inspire us as we are confronting ourselves with global challenges like climate change, biodiversity loss, and food insecurity. So like the Bishnoi, I think we should work together across sectors, across the entire food value chain, to create a more resilient and sustainable future. So by fostering cross-sector collaboration, we can share knowledge, we can share resources and innovations that should help driving sustainable practices at every step of the value chain. So farmers, for example, they can benefit from data-driven insight on soil health, plant health, while food manufacturers, they can adapt their way of sourcing to support regenerative practices. Or regulators, they set up regulation, but at the end, it's a partnership with the private sector or civil society that it can be translated into impactful actions. But today, I would like particularly to focus on one example of collaborative program. So it's a French one. So the name in French is Convention des entreprises pour le climat. So in English, it could be Convention of Companies for Climate. And we are very proud to take part in this initiative at Mérieux NutriSciences. So this new agri and food program will start in November, and we are joining forces with other stakeholders in the food value chain to collectively rethink how we produce and consume food. So the program is organized in different stages. We will start first with a deep dive into systemic issues that the food sector is facing, followed then by expert-led sessions and then workshops where together we will design and test new business models and practices. So over the course of the program, we will engage into peer-to-peer discussions to learn from each other's experiences and collectively shape a roadmap for each individual company to accelerate the contribution to the development of sustainable food systems. So today, I really wanted to invite any company in our ecosystem. It can be our clients, our suppliers, our partners, and any other company, of course, in the agri and food sector, to join us in this ambitious journey. So wherever you are a farmer who wants to change your practices, or a company who wants to adapt the sourcing practices, or a food tech company driving innovation in the food sector, your expertise, your knowledge, and your commitment is needed to learn from each other and to create lasting impacts. So if you want to join this collaborative program, you can either go on their website or contact us because I would be very happy to introduce you to the organizers of this program. That's it. So Sarita, I think maybe we are approaching the end of the event. So I will give you the floor again together with Frank.
Thank you, Anna-Elodie. I'm going to invite Frank to join us again. There he is. Okay.
Hi. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us, Frank. You know, as we wrap today and we think about the future, one resource I think we absolutely must be thinking about is water. You know, I live in California where we have drought and also water restrictions, and how I view and use water today is much different than before I moved here. Could you speak to that future challenge, water scarcity and water management? What have you seen in your travels or in your explorations that can give us hope for a better world, or inspiration like a trash can in Paris?
Yeah, I've witnessed a lot of things. I was working on water issues and rivers during 8 years, and I covered 8 major rivers, including the Colorado. So I witnessed the wars. For example, how the Colorado it's not reaching the sea anymore since over 25 years, because 300 farmers in the south of California just changed their way. They actually, before they were growing vegetables in the Imperial Valley, and then they decided to grow alfalfa to feed animals. And in a matter of months, Mexico didn't get any more water, and the Colorado was completely dried after the border. So the last 110 kilometers and the delta are now dry since 25 years. So I witnessed this. This is just not collaboration between countries. And what I also witnessed is how countries can collaborate, just sitting on a table and listen to each other. For the Danube River, for example, it's working very well. In the beginning, we had also issues, problems, but they just decided to create a commission and to listen to each other, sit on a table. Same thing for the Senegal River in Africa. Also sitting together and working together. That's the main thing. That's actually, this provides harmony. Just listening to each other and try to find the best for everyone. That's the key. And then, as I was listening all of you, and I totally agree that it's like the key is also to keep a living soil. That's the key. Regenerative agriculture, permaculture, agroforestry, combining all this. I've seen it in several countries. So combining all this and now using the new technologies like Genesis is doing, it's very important, because we need everyone to act together to keep the soil living. This will help us to grow food with very little water. Actually, we don't need that much water to grow food. And if we use regenerative agriculture, it's working much better, and you use less water because the water is kept on the ground, because you have always plants covering the soil. So the moisture is kept, and it's not facing that much heat. So water, and just to finish, there is one more thing I want to tell you, is that when I was looking at the figures about the water leaking in the pipes, worldwide you have 30% of water just leaking. 30% of the water pumped out of the lake, out of the ground, whatever. 30% is just going back in the wild and not usable. And in France, you have 20% of it, so it's a bit better. But worldwide, it's 30%. In some areas, it's half of the water is just lost. And this is something, a very important issue. It's not only for agriculture, it's for everyone. This country should really take care about this. That's a major issue.
Thank you. I think for the sake of our planet, how we take care of the soil, how we take care of the water, how we can work together for the future of our planet is so important. So thank you for those insights. I don't see any questions for our panelists, so I don't know if any of you have any last words that you would like to share, or any inspiration you want to share with our audience before we wrap up today. Just to put you on the spot. So if not, thank you so much to Frank, Andre, and Elodie, David, Yanyoris, and Roland. Thank you so much for being with us and sharing your experience and insights. And thank you to the audience for your time, taking the time to join us. And I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Goodbye.